The twin suns of Allari hung low in the amber sky, casting long shadows across the temple ruins and dusting the ancient stone in gold. The air shimmered with dry heat, scented with minerals and distant blooms, unfamiliar and faintly metallic. Lieutenant Commander Nathan Felton squinted against the glare as he trudged up the winding path, each step stirring up fine particles that danced like golden fireflies in the sunlight. His boots were still caked in the red sand from the landing site, and his uniform clung uncomfortably to his back. The expedition's gear glinted beneath a web of solar canopies, and the distant whir of scanning drones punctuated the quiet hum of cicada-like insects. He paused, took a swig from his canteen, grimacing at the faint taste of purification tablets. Better than nothing, he muttered. Nathan had been on the surface for 12 days. 12 long days of polite stares, cold welcomes, and distant, unreadable eyes. The Allari people, tall and elegant with their luminous blue skin and flowing silver hair, were a vision straight from myth. And like all myths, they had little patience for reality, especially when reality wore a scratched Federation uniform and carried a past no one spoke about. The incident on Europa was never far from him. It clung like a shadow, whispered in military briefings, never quite addressed but always present. So when the fleet offered him a position as security escort on this mission, a glorified babysitter role, he accepted without hesitation. Less scrutiny, more distance. Or so he thought. Commander Felton, the voice of Dr. Harrington broke through the haze. The scientist jogged up to him, excitement blazing in his eyes. Perfect timing. The High Priestess has granted us access to the Central Temple tomorrow. First time off-worlders have ever been allowed past the outer sanctum. Nathan nodded, offering a dry, good to know, though his mind was elsewhere. His hand hovered near the stunner on his belt, habit more than paranoia. The silence of this world pressed on him, not hostile, but ancient, patient, watching. Commander Felton, a voice said behind him. He turned, and for a moment he forgot the heat entirely. She stood beneath the shade of an arched gate, her silver hair catching the light like flowing threads of starlight. Her eyes amber, luminous, steady-held. His gaze with disarming calm. The emerald robe she wore hugged her form, whispering over her blue skin like wind over water. When she stepped forward, it was with the grace of someone born from stillness. "I am Neria," she said, her voice melodic but firm, "daughter of High Priestess Kayla. I will be your liaison for tomorrow's ceremony." "Nathan Felton," he replied, reaching instinctively to shake her hand, then hesitating, remembering too late that the allari didn't do that. He lowered it awkwardly. "I look forward to it." She tilted her head, a trace of amusement playing at her lips. "You are the pilot?" "That's me. The one who flew through the vortex storm on our southern continent? No escort, no guide during peak cycle? Just doing my job," he said with a shrug, downplaying the reckless solo mission that had saved an isolated village of infected colonists. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in suspicion but in something far more curious. "None of our pilots would attempt such a flight. The storm devours ships, even our fastest." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "And yet you survived. Got lucky, I guess." "I do not believe in luck, Commander Felton." She said it simply, but her gaze lingered on him sharp, searching, almost reverent. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away, her robe trailing behind her like liquid night. Dr. Harrington nudged him with a grin. "Well, you made an impression." "Don't be ridiculous," Nathan muttered, though he found himself watching Neria until she disappeared behind a temple. Wall that night, Nathan couldn't sleep. His dreams were full of motion, of soaring across vast skies, not in a shuttle, but something alive. Something ancient. The controls were alien, fluid beneath his fingertips, yet they obeyed him like an extension of his body. He felt the air bend around him, the stars respond, the vessel hum with an intelligence that knew him, welcomed him. Woke before dawn, sweat dampening his brow, his breath caught between awe and dread. By midday, he found himself following Neria and the team into the central temple. The air within was cool and filled with a quiet hum, like the bones of the planet were whispering to one another. Glowing vines traced the walls, casting bioluminescent reflections onto polished stone. These chambers have remained sealed for over 10,000 years, Neria said, her voice barely above a breath. What you are about to see is sacred. They entered a circular room that opened like a bloom of stone. Elders stood in silence. And there, at the very center, was the vessel. Sleek, teardrop-shaped, its surface was neither metal nor stone, but something between, alive with faint pulses of internal light. Nathan didn't know why he stepped forward. The others called after him, warned him back, but the ship. It called to him. He raised his hand and touched the hull. Light exploded across the surface like ripples across water. The ship breathed. A seam opened, forming a doorway. The elders gasped. Someone whispered in a language he didn't know. Neria took a step back, her mouth slightly parted. Impossible, she whispered. Nathan stared at the opening. The ship had waited for him. The sky above Allari turned a deeper shade of bronze as the suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the temple courtyards. The atmosphere hung heavy with tension. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Inside the inner sanctum, the echoes of the vessel's awakening still shimmered in the air like heat off stone. No one spoke. No one moved. The ancient craft stood humming softly in the center of the chamber, its sleek surface aglow with alien patterns, alive again after 10,000 years of silence. Neria's eyes were locked on Nathan, not with anger, not with awe, but with something stranger, fear. Not fear of him, but of what he might mean. You shouldn't have been able to do that, she said, her voice a whisper swallowed by the bay. Sacred chamber. Was I not supposed to? Nathan asked, half a smirk on his face, trying to ease the storm in her expression. But inside, he felt like the air was gone. His pulse thundered beneath his skin. The dream, the hum, the feeling of belonging when his hand touched the ship. None of it made sense. One of the elder priests stepped forward, robes swaying like liquid silver. We have waited for centuries, he said, voice brittle with age and reverence. And now the vessel awakens. Not for one of our own, but for an outsider. This is not possible, another elder hissed. We have trained for this. Our strongest minds. Our greatest pilots. None have been accepted. The high priestess Kayla stood rigid at the far end of the chamber, her expression unreadable. Not awe, not rage. Something colder calculated. He must be taken, she said softly. Examined, studied. I didn't break anything, Nathan said, raising his hands. I just touched the damn thing. The vessel pulsed again, softly, as if reacting to his voice. A soft harmonic hum rippled through the room, low and resonant, like the purr of something ancient waking from a long sleep. Enough, Neria said suddenly. Her voice, though quiet, held the authority of someone born to command. He comes. With me. Kayla's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. The silence between mother and daughter burned like static. Without waiting, Neria grabbed Nathan's wrist and pulled him toward a tapestry in the corner of the chamber, one so old and faded it looked part of the wall itself. Her fingers moved swiftly across the symbols embroidered into its frame, and a soft grinding sound followed as the wall shifted, revealing a hidden passage carved from obsidian stone. Nathan blinked. You guys are just full of surprises. Move. They descended into darkness, the stone staircase lit only by faint lines of glowing moss that clung to the walls. The air here was colder, denser, less sacred, more secret. When they reached the bottom, the corridor opened into a small domed room with a single object at its center, a pedestal cradling a book bound in shimmering black hide. Neria approached it reverently. "This place is forbidden," she said, almost to herself. "Few know it exists. Fewer still dare enter. But the moment you touched the vessel, I knew we had no choice." "What is it?" "The Hall of Prophecy." She opened the book. Instead of paper, its pages were thin metallic sheets, etched with symbols that flickered as she turned them. Her amber eyes scanned line after line, her lips moving silently. Then she stopped. Her hand trembled slightly. "What is it?" Nathan asked, stepping closer. She read aloud. "When the sky fire returns and the Silent One breathes once more, he will come from beyond the stars, unknowing, unwanted, carrying the blood of those who once fled, immune to the devouring. He shall awaken that which slumbers, and through him light and shadow will rise again." Nathan felt the chill crawl down his spine. "You think that's me?" Neria looked up slowly. "You flew through the vortex storm. No one flies through the vortex storm. Our best tried and died. The ship responds to you." And her eyes dropped to his arm, where faint, unfamiliar glyphs had begun to glow just beneath the skin. "You bear the mark." Nathan stared at the glowing lines in his flesh. They pulsed like circuitry, like language burned into him by the vessel's touch. "I'm not anyone's chosen hero," he said, taking a shaky step back. "I'm not even a full-time soldier anymore. I'm here because no one else wanted the job." "And yet the ship knew you," she said. "You don't have to believe the prophecy, but it believes you." The air grew colder. Somewhere above them, a distant metallic thud echoed down the corridor. Neria's face paled. "They're coming," she said. "My mother, the council. They won't let you walk out of here now, not with what you've touched, not with what you've become." Nathan stepped toward the pedestal, running his hand over the strange glowing text. "This prophecy, it says I awaken light and shadow." "What does that mean?" Neria closed the book. "I'm not sure." "Then what do we do?" "We hide. We learn. We find out what the shadow is before it finds you." A crack of stone. Above, a tremor in the floor. The ancient walls groaned. "Too late," she whispered. A voice echoed through the tunnels, hollow and distorted. "Return the vessel. Surrender the human." Nathan pulled Neria behind him instinctively, his body going tense. "That doesn't sound like your mom." "It's not," Neria said. "Not anymore." The stone corridor trembled with a low, guttural hum like the growl of a beast awakening beneath their feet. The ancient walls, once silent for centuries, now whispered with something unnatural, something alive. Neria gripped Nathan's arm tightly, pulling him deeper into the catacombs as the echo of that distorted voice faded behind them. "Return the vessel. Surrender the human. No name, no emotion, just command." They ran through the dim blue glow of bioluminescent fungi, the only light in the narrow passage. Dust fell from the ceiling in lazy spirals as unseen vibrations passed through the rock. "Where does this tunnel lead?" Nathan asked, ducking beneath a low arch as they turned a corner. "To a chamber few remember," Neria replied, her breath shallow, her pace never slowing. "A hidden archive beneath the temple's foundation. It was sealed after the last Vex incursion." Nathan slowed slightly. "You just said Vex?" Out loud. "What is that?" She stopped suddenly at a door formed of fused crystal, placing her palm on its surface. Glowing veins of light spidered out from her skin, and with a low hiss, the crystal dissolved. "Not what? Who? Follow me." The chamber beyond was larger than he expected. Domed, circular, and cold, its floor carved with symbols that shifted ever so slightly when viewed from different angles. Strange consoles lined the walls, and in the center was a monolithic structure part obelisk, part machine. It pulsed with a heartbeat-like rhythm. "What is this place?" Nathan asked, voice low. "The deep memory of Allari," she answered, walking toward the obelisk. "Before my people built temples, they were warriors, survivors. They built this archive to remember what almost destroyed them, and what we failed to completely destroy in return." She placed her hand against the surface, and the obelisk came to life. It projected a massive holographic display into the air, dozens of alien symbols, planetary charts, species profiles, biological scans. And then a central image. A black, coiling entity with a pulsating red core, tendrils branching out like roots or neural pathways. "The Vex," Neria said. "A parasitic hive intelligence. 10,000 years ago, they arrived on our world, spreading through hosts, whispering into minds, rewriting who we were. They were unstoppable. Until we found a way to trap their queen." Nathan stared at the image, heart pounding. "Where?" Neria turned slowly. "In the vessel you awakened." His mouth went dry. "You're telling me I just released the thing your ancestors sealed away?" "No," she said. "You haven't released it yet, but the seal was weakening long before you came. The moment you touched the ship, you didn't just wake it. You woke her. The queen. She felt you. She's been watching." Nathan stepped back, gripping the edge of the nearest console. "So what now? She wants me dead?" "No," Neria said softly, her eyes locked on his. "She wants you alive. Because you're different. She's already tried to take you. Remember the parasite in the tunnel?" He nodded. "It couldn't bond to you. She knows that now. She wants to understand why. If she learns your genome, if she discovers what makes you resistant, she adapt. And when she does, we lose our only advantage," he finished grimly. Neria stepped closer. "There's more. The ship, the one you activated, it wasn't just a weapon. It was also a vault. It holds data, memories, records of the ancient war. Your kind humans were part of that war. It's why the ship accepted you. It remembers you or your bloodline." Nathan exhaled, struggling to take it all in. "So, the ancestors your people worship, they were human? Or something?" "Very close. They fled a dying world. Your world." Silence hung between them. "That's why you can't be allowed to leave," a new voice said, echoing from behind them. Nathan turned sharply, drawing the compact sidearm from his hip as three figures stepped from the shadows. Allari guards, tall, masked, weapons drawn. But their movements were off. Too fluid, too synchronized. And their eyes glowing red beneath their helmets. "They're already inside," Neria whispered. The guard stepped forward in perfect unison. "Surrender the pilot. We require the genetic key." Nathan fired first. His shot slammed into the chest of the lead guard, knocking them backward, but they didn't fall. They simply reset, arms twitching for a fraction of a second before continuing forward. "Run," Neria hissed. They sprinted back toward the corridor, the strange red glow chasing them like a virus through the dark. The vessel, Nathan thought. They had to reach the vessel. It was the only place that had responded to him. The only place he might have a chance to fight back. As they emerged from the hidden archive and into a forgotten hall, Neria slammed her hand against a crystal panel, and a section of the wall slid open. Through it lay a narrow shaft leading upward. "What is this?" Nathan asked, breathing hard. "An old lift chamber abandoned. If the power still responds to my blood, it'll take us back to the central sanctuary." She stepped in and extended her hand. He didn't hesitate. As the chamber sealed around them and began its slow, rattling ascent, Neria pressed her forehead to the wall. She's accelerating. Spreading faster than we thought. Your arrival must have triggered something deeper. Nathan reached for her hand. Then we stop her. The lift halted with a jolt. Ahead of them, a faint hum and pulsing lights signaled the vessel still waited, but so did something else. The moment the doors opened, they found the hallway beyond. Empty but wrong. The floor pulsed faintly beneath their feet, and the walls, once dormant, were alive with glowing red veins. Neria tensed. The Queen's influence has reached the inner temple. Then let's make sure she doesn't. Leave it. They ran, not away, but straight toward the ancient ship that waited alive, humming, and ready to fight. The air within the sanctum was no longer sacred. It throbbed. Alive, infected, Nathan slowed as he and Neria stepped into the grand vestibule where the vessel now hovered in its cradling platform, surrounded by a shifting aura of soft light. But something was wrong. The temple walls, once etched with cold, unchanging stone, were now crawling with red-black veins that pulsed in rhythm with a heartbeat that did not belong to any living creature. The vessel remained silent. No hum. No shimmer. It was waiting, watching. It's gone dormant again, Neria whispered, her fingers tightening around his. Or hiding. Before Nathan could answer, a voice rang out sharp, familiar, and utterly wrong. You were warned. The High Priestess Kayla emerged from the far arch, flanked by temple guards. Her regal robes dragged behind her like smoke. But her eyes, those impossibly human eyes, glowed with unnatural crimson light. Mother, Neria's voice cracked. Please. Kayla didn't blink, didn't breathe. You have defiled the legacy of our people, she said flatly. Her voice now layered hers, and something else underneath it, something colder. And worse, you have brought him, she pointed at Nathan. The awakeners were not meant to return, Kayla continued, stepping closer. We locked them out. We chose stagnation over war. And now you've undone all of it. Nathan stepped forward, meeting her gaze without flinching. You're not her. Not anymore. The skin at the base of Kayla's neck twitched, just. Slightly. A ripple. Something crawling beneath. Clever human, the thing said, no longer pretending to be her. Yes, we are Vex, we are memory, and we have waited long for this moment. For you. Nathan's hand tightened around his sidearm, but Neria reached up and touched his arm. It's no use. If you harm the host, you harm the only mother you have left, the Vex Queen said through Kayla's mouth, smiling with teeth. That looked too sharp now, but we'll make this easier. Surrender yourself. Your blood holds what we need. The sequence. The missing key. Nathan's heart pounded. And if I don't? Then we take it from your corpse. From the shadows behind her, guards stepped forward, dozens. But something was different. Their movements were unnatural, insectal. The Vex had spread. He stepped backward, positioning himself between them and Neria. Get to the ship, he whispered. If it responds to me, maybe we can— No, Neria interrupted, her eyes locked on her mother. I know another way. There's a back channel beneath the altar. Come on. A low scream echoed from the far hall, then another and another. Temple acolytes, suman, some allari staggered into view, their bodies shaking violently as crimson tendrils erupted from beneath. Their skin. The hive is awakening, the Queen said calmly. This temple is ours now. Nathan and Neria ran. They ducked into the shadowed corridors, weaving through forgotten paths carved during the early wars. Bioluminescent lights flickered. Around them, fighting the crimson corruption that spread like rot through the sacred walls. As they descended into a lower tunnel, Neria stopped suddenly, pressing her hands to a circular stone door covered in glyphs. "This is where they kept the first records of the Queen," she said. "Before the seal, before the vault was even built." The door creaked open, revealing a small chamber lined with ancient archives. In the center, a pedestal. And hovering above it, spinning slowly, was a tiny metallic sphere glowing with a pale blue light. "What is it?" Nathan asked. "A neural key," Neria said. "It's what the Queen used to link with her hosts. But the ancestors modified this one. It can sever that link. Temporarily. You want to use it on your mother." "I want to save her." Nathan didn't speak for a moment. Then he nodded. "Let's try." She took the sphere, and as they turned to leave, another voice entered their minds. "You cannot stop what has begun." Nathan staggered slightly, clutching his skull as the Queen's voice pressed against his mind like hot wire. But something was wrong. The pressure couldn't reach him. It recoiled. Neria's eyes widened. "You're immune to her telepathy." "Good," Nathan said through gritted teeth. "Then she'll never see this coming." They made their way back to the vessel chamber, moving through side corridors lit only by flickering glyphs. Outside the temple's main plaza was Chaos Vex-infested guards fighting uncontaminated defenders. Civilians screaming, and above it all, the hum of something enormous rising beneath the ground. "She's waking up the hive below," Neria said. "The Queen wasn't sealed alone." "Then we need to cut the head off this thing before it spreads," Nathan replied. As they reached the vessel once more, he approached it, placing both palms on its hull. The glow returned instantly, like it had merely been asleep waiting for him. Its door opened. "Go," he said to Neria. "Get your mother to the central dais. If we sever the Queen's link now, we might get a window." Neria nodded, disappearing into the chaos. Inside the vessel, Nathan slid into the pilot's seat. The controls lit beneath his fingertips like they remembered his soul. The ship, organic and alive, recognized him not just as a user, but as its own. Across the panel, a warning pulsed. "Containment breach imminent. Hive awakening." A soft voice echoed through the cockpit in ancient dialect, then translated into his language. "You are the last of the blood. Allari and human must become one again." He reached for the console, preparing for liftoff. Outside, a tremor shook the temple as a monstrous chasm opened beneath the central dais. Tendrils, black and thick as tree trunks, erupted skyward. And standing on that dais, her robe torn, her eyes wild, was Kayla. Neria emerged from the side, hurling the neural key forward. It struck her mother's chest with a flash of blue. For a heartbeat, time stopped. The red light in Kayla's eyes vanished, the tendrils froze. And for the first time in years, Kayla wept. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Then the Queen screamed from somewhere deeper underground, and the walls began to collapse. Nathan launched the ship. It rose with a deafening roar, spinning upward, shaking free ancient dust and broken stone as the ground split beneath it. "Get in," he shouted through the ship's comms. Neria leapt toward the ramp just as it sealed behind her. "Did it work?" Nathan asked, breathing hard. "For now," she said, eyes still wet. "But she's not done. The Queen is trying to escape." Nathan looked down at the map displayed on the console, red signals blinking across the continent. "Then we chase her," he said, locking his hands on the controls. "And we end this." The ancient vessel tore through the morning sky like a streak of silver fire, leaving behind the smoking ruins of the Allari Central Temple. Nathan's hands moved across the controls with instinctive precision, though he'd never flown a ship like this. He didn't need to understand it. The vessel responded not to thought, but to will. And his will had never been sharper. Stop the Vex. Protect Neria. Survive. Below them, The once pristine courtyards of the temple were shattered, black veins spreading like wildfire across the marble terrain. Statues of the ancestors cracked and collapsed as twisted creatures crawled out of the fractures, hybrid horrors wearing the skins of temple guards and acolytes. Some still bore their uniforms, their eyes vacant red voids. Neria stood beside him, her hands gripping the back of his seat as her people fell to corruption. Her robe was stained with soot and blood. Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded so loud he could almost hear it. "The Queen's hive is deeper than we feared," she said. "Beneath the temple lies a conduit, a direct neural anchor to the Vex core. We've only struck a limb. The heart still beats." Nathan adjusted the display, zooming in on the subterranean scans that the ship fed into his vision. "Then we go deeper. Strike the heart." "Wait," Neria said, pointing to a blip on the map. "There, beneath the altar of Genesis. That was never just a shrine. It's a chamber. The original site where the Queen's consciousness was trapped." "Nathan, focus the ship scanners." The signal beneath that altar pulsed like a heartbeat, erratic, unstable, and growing stronger. "She's escaping," Neria breathed. "She's going to split, duplicate. If she succeeds, we won't be able to stop her next time." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Then there won't be a next time." He angled the vessel down, folding its wings inward. The ship spun, arced, then dove straight toward the collapsing temple grounds. The ground rushed to meet them, the skies roaring past as alarms lit across the control panel. "Brace for entry." He shouted. The vessel hit the temple steps with a thunderous impact, skidding through fractured marble and scattering Vex spawn like shattered glass. Fire and black ichor sprayed around them. The hull held, seamless and living, reacting to every shock. "You good?" Nathan asked, glancing back. Neria's eyes blazed. "Go." The vessel blasted a path through what remained of the inner sanctum, collapsing the corrupted pillars and carving a tunnel toward the core. The deeper they went, the less stone surrounded them. Now it was something else grown, not built. Living. Architecture. Pulsating red muscle intertwined with metallic fibers. They had entered the Queen's body. "This whole place is her," Neria whispered. "This is her hive, her mind." "Then let's give her a stroke." A jagged chasm opened. A head glowing with red energy, and at its center floated a massive crystalline heart. Inside it pulsed a being, not quite female, not quite alive. Translucent skin stretched over shifting bones, a crown of tendrils fanning out from its head, feeding into the chamber walls like neural cords. "That's her," Neria said, her voice a mix of awe and horror. "The Vex Queen." The Queen turned and looked directly at them. Though no mouth moved, her voice invaded their minds like knives wrapped in honey. "You bring the key. How kind of you to return home, my children." Nathan gritted his teeth as the psychic pressure pushed against his skull. Neria staggered, clutching her head. "Block her out," he said, taking her hand. "Use the bond." Their connection sparked to life, bright, pure, untainted by the Queen's presence. Together they formed a shield. The Queen hissed, recoiling. "You defy the bond of origin. You choose separation over unity. How disappointing." Nathan targeted the core, weapon system online. Firing pulse disruptor. The Queen raised her arms. The hive walls convulsed. Massive tendrils shot out, wrapping around the vessel and lifting it into the air like prey in a spider's web. "You will not destroy what made you. You are me. You were bred to continue me." Nathan pushed the engines. The vessel roared, but the tendrils tightened. Sparks flew from the controls. The core weapon charged, then stalled. "She's overriding the weapon system," Neria shouted. "She's inside the ship." Nathan closed his eyes, reached deeper. The vessel trusted him. He could feel it. The systems weren't controlled by tech, they were controlled by memory. Blood memory? He opened his eyes. His voice cut through the cockpit like a blade. Override lockdown. Command authority, Felton. Human designation Alpha lineage. A flash. The weapon core reignited. The Queen screamed. Neria turned to him, stunned. How did you? I don't know, he said, sweat pouring down his brow. But the ship knew. A countdown appeared. 10 seconds. Tendrils battered the vessel. From every angle, the walls cracked. Fluids burst from pipes like bleeding veins. But the vessel held. 3.2. Nathan closed his eyes and whispered, For Earth, for Allari, for you. 1. The pulse fired. A blinding sphere of energy erupted from the core of the ship, flooding the chamber with searing white light. The Queen's form twisted, convulsed, her scream not audible, but felt like 1,000 mirrors shattering inside their skulls. The crystal heart cracked. Then split. The entire hive convulsed. The web of tendrils ignited. The Queen disintegrated not in blood or flame, but in light, her body unraveling into sparks of data and dust. Silence. And then the temple began to collapse. We have to go. Neria shouted. Nathan threw the vessel into reverse, the hull scraping through the hive as the entire structure fell in on itself. They punched through the surface just as the temple cracked. Like a dying star behind them. The central spire collapsed. The red glow faded. The Vex were gone. For now. Nathan let out a breath and slumped in the pilot's seat. Neria collapsed beside him, laughing and crying all at once. You did it. You really did it. He reached for her hand. No, he said. We did. The ship hummed softly beneath them, returning to silence. Beneath the sunrise, Allari was quiet again, but the stars had begun to whisper once more. The morning after the hive's fall was too quiet. The sun had barely crested the ridges of Allari's distant mountains, casting a golden haze over the scorched earth where the central temple once stood. The sky, once a brilliant amber, now felt bruised, dimmed by ash and memory. Stone fragments lay scattered like broken teeth across the plaza, and the air carried the faint, acrid scent of burned parasite. But beneath the silence, something stirred. Nathan stood beside the ancient vessel, its smooth surface now scarred from battle. His hands were smudged with soot, knuckles bruised. He'd slept only a few hours, curled in the pilot's seat, dreaming of things he could no longer name, fragments of ancient cities, firestorms of memory, whispers in languages that didn't belong to this century. Neria approached, her robe torn, eyes hollow but steady. Behind her, the surviving elders gathered around the broken remnants of the altar, speaking in hushed, shaken tones. We stopped the Queen, Nathan said, but it didn't sound like victory. Neria shook her head. We silenced her echo, but her mind was never just here. Not completely. He turned, frowning. You said the vessel was her prison. We destroyed it. No, Neria said, voice low. We destroyed her body, but not her voice. Look. She reached into the folds of her robe and produced a small data crystal, the one she'd taken from the vessel's archive core before the final assault. This held messages, she said. Sealed comms between corrupted elders and something else. The transmissions weren't originating from within Allari. They were responding, answering. Nathan's heart dropped. She wasn't commanding the hive, she was reporting in. Or warning them, Neria said. Nathan took the crystal and inserted it into the vessel's console. The interface came alive, shifting through layers of encrypted data until a holographic map filled the cabin. But this wasn't a map of a allari. This was space. Hundreds of glowing points, scattered across a galactic grid. At the center, a pulsing crimson mass like a spider clutching threads that extended in all directions. What am I looking at? Nathan asked. Neria's voice was barely a breath. Vex Hive worlds. His stomach twisted. There's more of them. Not just more, she said. A network. The queen we fought was one of many fragments, avatars. The real queen, if she exists, might be something else entirely. A mind stretched across space. And she now knows humanity has returned. Nathan turned toward her. How long before? They send reinforcements? As if answering, the vessel's internal sensors flared red dot dimensional. Breach detected dot object incoming. They both stared at the display as a rift opened in orbit above Allari Black. Swirling, unnatural. Not a ship. Not a signal dot, a tear dot, and through it came something vast. Not physical, not visible, but felt. Pressure swept over the planet like a scream held beneath water. Birds took flight. Trees bent. Children cried. The air grew cold. Neria fell. To her knees, clutching her temples. She's here. She found us. Nathan caught her, shielding her with his body. Is it the queen? No, she whispered. It's something worse. Her consort. Nathan's mouth went dry. She had help? She was never alone, Neria said, trembling. They were created in twos like binary stars. He was. Sealed in a separate dimension, lost after the war, until now. The rift pulsed again, and then, from the other side, a single shape emerged. Not a fleet, not a weapon. A figure tall, featureless, cloaked in writhing black. It descended not with flames, but with stillness. Like the very laws of gravity bent to greet it. New entity detected. Status. Unknown. Classification. Silence-class. Threat. Catastrophic. We're not ready for this, Nathan said, helping Neria into the vessel. We barely survived the queen. The entity landed at the edge of the crater where the temple once stood. It didn't move, didn't speak, but everything around it withered. Stone cracked, plants curled into ash. The light dimmed as if time itself recoiled. We can't fight that, Neria said. Not without the others. Nathan turned to her. Others? She nodded. There were more vessels. Not allaris, not even human. The archive said they were scattered after the Exodus, hidden across the stars, if we can find them. The console glowed with understanding. Stars lit up across the map, each one encoded with a symbol that matched the vessel's own core. Then we're going star-hopping. Nathan said. To what end? Neria asked. We don't even know if the other vessel survived. Nathan sat back in the pilot's seat. Then let's ask. He placed his hand on the console, and the vessel vibrated, sensing his resolve. Searching, the interface said. Signals located. Partial activation confirmed. Multiple ships responding. Synchronizing now. Neria leaned close. They're still out there. The vessel displayed an image 7 ships, ancient and alien, each orbiting distant. Forgotten worlds. And one of them pulsed with a beacon identical to Nathan's blood. Signature. It's calling you, Neria whispered. No, Nathan said, heart thudding. They all are. Outside, the Silence-class entity raised its head and smiled. The Silence-class entity stood unmoving at the edge of the crater, and yet all of Allari seemed to bend around it as if the planet itself held its breath. The light above dimmed, not from clouds, but from something deeper, more ancient, absence. Not just of warmth or sound, but of possibility. Of hope. Nathan stared at the thing through the vessel's viewport, every nerve in his body screaming. It hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, but he felt it. Felt it like gravity, like pressure in the skull before a storm. Not alive. Not dead. Something else. Neria sat beside him, pale but resolute. The ship's map hovered before them, displaying the 7 remaining vessels across the star grid, each one pulsing with energy signatures now awakened by Nathan's touch. scattered in forgotten systems, buried on ancient worlds, each holding part of a legacy long erased by time and fear. Can't fight that thing with one ship, Nathan said. But maybe 7? Maybe we stand a chance. It took everything we had to stop the Queen, Neria replied. And he's not even using power yet, he's just being. Then we find the others before he decides to start doing. The vessel's core thrummed. Then spoke in a voice that was not human, not allari, but something older, crystalline, and absolute. Vessels recognized. Network interface initializing. Ancestral protocol engaged. Nathan and Neria exchanged a glance. You are not the first. You are not alone. The map focused on one location, a dead system on the edge of known space, a planet bathed in shadow. No star, no heat, and yet a pulse. The same kind Nathan had triggered when he touched the vessel on a allari. First vessel. Designation Omega. Integrity, stable. Pilot signature, match. Then that's where we start, Nathan said. Plot a course. As the ship lifted from Allari's broken temple grounds, the Silence-class entity tilted its head. No eyes, no face, but somehow it watched them go. And it waited. The vessel punched through the atmosphere, the stars above clearing in a snap. The jump was smooth, near instant, guided by tech that was part machine, part memory. Within moments, they emerged in the dead system. Cold, black, no suns, no moons, just drifting chunks of ice and silence, until it appeared. The Omega vessel. It hovered above the dark world like a sleeping god, sleek and massive, easily 3 times the size of theirs. Its surface shimmered with a light that wasn't reflected, but generated as though remembering the stars it had once known. The moment they approached, Neria gasped. I can feel it, she whispered. In my mind, like yours, the same bond. Nathan landed the ship alongside the massive Omega vessel. Its outer shell opened like the petals of a black flower, revealing a bridge. No weapons drawn, just welcome. Together, they stepped onto it. Inside was not steel, not circuitry. It was memory. Images flashed across the walls. Fragments of the first warships made of light battling shadow creatures in a sky on fire. Humans, allari, and other races fighting together, and at the center of it all, the Silence-class entity, once sealed. Now free. Then came a voice, female. Warm, tired, you've returned. A figure formed before them. Translucent, tall, draped in robes of memory. Her face was familiar to both of them, though they'd never seen it before. Who are you? Nathan asked. I was the first pilot, the last commander of the Omega fleet. I am what remains of the Resistance, and you are its final hope. The Omega vessel glowed. The silence is broken. The Vex have stirred. But the weapons of the ancestors were never meant to fight alone. They were meant to awaken together. So you're saying, we don't fight him ship to ship, Neria said. We bring them all online, link them, unify. Yes. The 7 were scattered to hide them. Now they must return. But what are we unifying? Nathan asked. The holographic figure stepped forward and touched his chest. Your blood, your bond, your spirit. This is what they fear. Not weapons, not fire, connection, the human spark that cannot be modeled. Only awaken. Neri. A single quotes as voice broke. But can it stop what's coming? It's the only thing that ever did. They launched. Again, the 2 vessels now flying as one. One by one, they journeyed through forgotten systems. Each vessel was hidden, trapped in myth. One beneath the oceans of a drowned world, another inside a dormant moon, one wrapped in vines on a jungle planet where gravity shifted like tides. Each time Nathan touched the hull, it responded. Not just to his DNA, but to his will. to the part of him that refused to let go, refused to lose. And each time another ship joined the fleet. Soon they had 6. The 7th was different. Buried on Earth. In a mountain no one had entered in 2,000 years. When they arrived, the world paused, Earth's orbit filled with blinking satellites and warning transmissions. Nathan opened a channel. "This is Commander Nathan Felton. Tell Fleet Command. We're not here to threaten. We're here to finish a war your ancestors started." Minutes later, Earth's defenses lowered, and the 7th vessel sealed within the Andes rose like an angel from the dust. All 7 were gathered above Allari. The Silence-class entity waited no longer. He began to move. Vex spores erupted from his form, falling to the planet like meteors. Corruption spread faster this time. As if he'd learned from the Queen's defeat, the fleet returned. 7 vessels. 7 pilots, some human, some allari, others found during their journey. Nathan led them. Not with rank. But with bond. As they approached the entity, the vessels began to merge, not physically, but through light, through memory, through song. Each one harmonizing, their cores pulsing in sync. The Silence class finally spoke, not with words, but a mental scream that cracked the clouds. "You should not exist." Nathan answered aloud, "Maybe not, but here we are." The fleet fired. Not lasers, not missiles. A wave of ancestral energy, frequency, emotion, memory. A song of survival, of resistance, of love. The Silence class howled, its form unraveling as it tried to absorb, to possess, to divide. But it could not this time, because 7 ships stood together, because 2 souls, Nathan and Neria, had bound in a way the Vex never could, because humanity and allari had remembered what made them strong. Connection. The entity collapsed in a burst of blinding white. The storm ended, the sky cleared, and a new dawn broke. Nathan stood once more in the temple garden, now rebuilt from the ruins. Neria beside him, her hand entwined with his. Around them, both worlds celebrated, Earth and allari, children of the same forgotten exodus. Now finally, home again. "You think we've seen the last of them?" Neria asked softly. Nathan looked up at the stars. "I think we've seen the last of their ignorance. Next time they'll know." "Know what?" He smiled. "That we don't run, we rise." The vessel hummed in the courtyard. Waiting. Watching. Ready. Ending line.